Hello and welcome back to another episode of UA Overtime. I'm here with Megan, Carl, and Dylan. We got some great topics for you today in the world of sports. First things first, we're going to talk about the NBA. The NBA trade deadline passed yesterday, so we're going to talk about our likes, dislikes, what we thought should have happened, and any big trades that really can make a difference for some of those teams out there in the NBA. So first, we're going to go to Dylan.
The deadline, it was pretty uneventful. There weren't any major trades. I feel bad for J.J. Redick. He had a chance to go to a serious contender, and he ended up on the Bucks. I would like to have seen him on like the Spurs or maybe even the Knicks. But regarding the major trades, people are forgetting that there are already two major trades earlier in the season. Right before the season started, James Harden was traded to the Rockets, and Rudy Gay a couple weeks ago was traded to the Raptors. So yesterday was uneventful, but there were already major trades, so if you factor them in, it was a pretty busy trade deadline situation, you know what I mean? And a trade I really liked was Jordan Crawford to the Celtics. He gives him points off the bench. I don't know if he's going to start, but off the bench, gives him some scoring. And I also really like the Thomas Robinson trade. The Rockets got a steal. He was the second overall pick last year. He's going to keep getting better. He didn't have a good chance in Sacramento, and I think that was going to be a steal in a couple of years. The Rockets got a good trade.
All right, Megan.
Like Dylan said, there wasn't a lot of big trades other than the Rudy Gay trade. I dislike how a lot of like small teams they traded people that really the Bobcats and the Magic traded their power forwards, which literally didn't do them anything, I don't think. The trade I do like the most is the Markieff and Marcus Morris will be playing on the Suns together. I think they'll bring a lot more energy to that team. We'll see if they can do.
All right, Carl.
Speaking of the Rudy Gay trade, I really like that trade. The Raptors have been playing very well over the span in which he played for them. They've won 6 of their last 9, and he's been averaging more than 20 points a game. So I think that that's really boosted their team, and I think that they can compete for a playoff spot.
All right. Just like everyone said, there was no real blockbuster trade to grab the attention or the headlines for newspapers or any big ESPN headlines, which really it won't bother the average NBA fan. But if you really care about the NBA, there was a lot of smaller trades that are going to make differences in the future. Like you said, the Robinson trade. I love the story that the Morris brothers get to play together, like the Upton brothers now. That's awesome for the team. That's awesome for them and their family. That's a good feel-good story. I do like the Crawford trade to the Celtics. Him coming off the bench, they're really not a deep team with Rondo going down. Now they get another person who could handle the ball, come off the bench, provide some scoring. So that could help them, especially in a weak Eastern Conference, where you never know if you get into the playoffs. Besides the Heat, there's no dominant second or third team right now, with the Knicks and Nets not playing great. So I feel like the East is wide open, so some of those trades definitely could come in handy.
What we've seen recently with the trade deadline is more about unloading expiring contracts and setting up free agency. That's what these minor deals are. They get rid of expiring contracts so they can go out and sign a big free agent. That's what the deadlines become more importantly.
Yeah, you saw a lot of trades with just cash trades too.
Yeah, exactly.
And, so they can open up their trading for next season or whatever.
And I think the Celtics got a real steal because they didn't give up anything for
Barbosa's out with an ACL injury. They got nothing.
Exactly. All right, we're going to come back in the second quarter. We're going to talk about our hometown New York Knicks. Stay tuned.
Hey, nice package!
Watch far from it. Watch far from it.
Hey, I'm Josh. I love the show Far From It. It's a great show. I love tuning in.
Watch far from it.
Love Far From It. Jay Wallace is the man.
I love Far From It.
Watch Far From It.
Welcome back. Our second quarter debate is going to be on the New York Knicks and our outlook for the rest of the season. First things first, we're going to go to Carl and see his feelings.
I think the Knicks will have a better half than they had the first half because Kenyon Martin brings leadership, veteranship, and defense to the team. I think he's a good acquisition, and I think that Iman Shumpert will have a better second half than he had in the first, and I think that the Knicks will compete with the Heat for the East. I think the Knicks are the only team that can compete with them, and I think they have the best shot. I think Carmelo will also compete with Durant for the scoring title, and I think that the Knicks will play very well this half.
All right, Megan?
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with Carl. I see the second half of their season going very well. A lot of players bouncing back. Carmelo. And I think that with the Pacers game that happened a few nights ago, a lot of frustration happened there. I think that game kind of needs to be forgotten a little bit because there was so much frustration that it just weighed them down and they'll move on. With the Kenyon Martin being traded. He's going to bring a lot of stability to their defense. He averages just under 5 rebounds, so that's something that they can use a little bit in their, looking towards the second half of their season.
All right, Dylan.
The Pacers game was pathetic. I don't want to talk about that. I like the Kenyon Martin signing. Rashid and Camby have not been able to stay healthy all year. Hopefully Martin will be able to. It's only a 10-day contract, so if it doesn't work, then he's not a long-term deal, so it's not a big deal. I love that they didn't trade Iman Shumpert. He's still recovering from his ACL surgery from last year. He's not 100% yet, and he's a young player. He's only getting better. So unless the team blew away the Knicks with a good offer, there's no reason to trade Iman. For the second half, honestly, I think the Knicks are going to continue to play how they've been playing recently, and that's streaky, mediocre basketball. In the last 28 games, they're only 14-14 after starting off 18-5. They're struggling right now, and a stat right now for Amari Stoudemire, the Knicks were 21-9 before Amari came back. Since he's come back, they're 11-10. Not putting it all on Amari, the team's not playing good right now, but it shows the impact he's had on the team's chemistry.
I agree. This is something we talked about 3-4 weeks ago when Amari was coming back. We were nervous about the chemistry and what's going to happen with the team because there's so many players in and out of the lineup that we haven't had their entire roster healthy at the same time all season. So it's difficult to get the team to actually have chemistry and play well with each other when they don't even have a chance to practice with each other. I like the Kenyon Martin signing. I like that he is also a former Nugget and a former Net. A lot of the players that we signed, even though they're older veterans, the fact that we can piece together a healthy lineup will be good because they've all played together in the past. That'll help out a little bit with the chemistry, that they all at least have some history with each other. So if they don't have a chance to practice 3-4 days in a row before a game, then at least that's one positive. I'm nervous about the East. I don't see anyone competing with the Heat. On the bright side, there's no other team. If there's a fluke, something happens that knocked the Heat out, I mean, you could easily see the Knicks end up in the finals where we'd probably get blown out by the Western team. But either which way, that can happen. The fact that there's no other second or third team, because Derrick Rose is hurt with the Bulls, the Nets are streaky, the Pacers are good, but they're still not there yet. So it's scary, but anything really could happen at this point.
All we're saying about the Knicks right now, and they're still the second team in the East.
Yeah.
That's how it shows how weak the East is, but the Knicks got to get back to what they were doing at the beginning of the season, which was great defense. Melo was playing like an MVP-level player. He's not right now. They got to figure that out. I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know if it's Amari's the problem. I don't know. J.R. Smith, he's been really streaky lately. He's usually a streaky player, but he's really cold lately. They got to figure it out. I don't know.
This team's proven that they can bounce back. I think that they can make a run, and as long as you get in the playoffs, that's all you need, really. I think that they'll obviously get in the playoffs as a number 2 seed, and then it goes from there. I think that they can compete with the Heat, but I don't know if they can beat them, and that's a big question in the East right now. So
yeah, even at that playoff level, they're also going to turn up, points-wise and energy-wise too. So
yeah, if they can get healthy
compete
and figure it out, like get the rotation down pat, like they can be a force in the East. But no one's beating the Heat. Let's be honest. No one's beating the Heat.
All right, we'll see what happens. Obviously, hopefully, we think they can all stay healthy, and if they do, maybe make some noise in the East. But we'll see what happens in the next couple months. Stay tuned. We're going to come back after halftime. Our third quarter debate is going to be about the Major League Baseball upcoming season. Stay with us. Our third quarter debate is going to be on Major League Baseball. This upcoming season is rapidly approaching. Spring training just started. The pitchers and the catchers all reported. So as of right now, we have nothing to go with but besides what's on the paper right now, the roster. So we're going to right now name our paper champions and our outlooks for the season before we have any actual games to look on. So first things first, we're going to go to Carl.
For MLB, I really like the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. If you look at their team, everyone's talking about the Blue Jays. They have a good team and all. They had a good offseason. But the Angels acquired Josh Hamilton, one of the best hitters in the league by far. If you look at their lineup, they have Hamilton, Pujols, Trumbo, and Trout. And 3 of those hitters are top 10 in the league already. Then they acquired pitching. They got Jason Vargas, Tommy Hanson, and Joe Blanton for the rotation. All those guys threw at least 170 innings last year and 140 strikeouts. So that's big for their rotation. And they also got Sean Burnett, and he is a reliable reliever, and they got Ryan Madsen as a closer. So I think they're kind of going under the radar, but they got a lot of acquisitions, and I think that they're the dominant force right now in the AL West and one of the best teams in Major League Baseball.
All right, Megan?
Yeah, in the ALS, they look good, but in the AL East, you have the Blue Jays, who also look good with R.A. Dickey going there. You have Melky Cabrera, Jose Reyes, and also Brandon Morrow, who's returning, who has a under 3 ERA with his 21 starts last season. I think they'll be a force within that division. Also, the Yankees, they're going to face a little more adversity that they've seen. I mean, they face it every year, but Cano's asking for more money. You know, Jeter's coming off an ankle injury, who's had to learn how to walk again. And I think that's going to be a tough season for them, but watch out for the Blue Jays.
All right, Dylan.
I would love to pick the Yankees, but let's be honest, all they really did this offseason was get older. And they made some small moves that I like. They brought Ichiro back, they brought Kuroda back, which are the right moves, and they signed Euclid, which proved to be a huge deal because we don't even know if A-Rod's going to play a game this year. But they didn't make any drastic improvements, so I can't pick them as my favorites. The team I am picking, though, is the Washington Nationals. They finished with the best regular season record last season, and all they did this offseason, unlike the Yankees, was get better. They brought in Rafael Soriano to shore up their bullpen, they traded for Denard Span to shore up center field, and they brought in Dan Herron to increase an already strong pitching staff. And the biggest pitching upgrade they got is that Steven Strasburg will not have an innings limit this year. They're going to let him loose. He's going to dominate. Him and Gio Gonzalez are going to be, in my opinion, the best 1-2 in the National League. And offensively, Bryce Harper, he put on like 10 pounds of muscle this offseason. He's only going to be better. I'm predicting he has a huge monster year this season, and I think the Nationals, they'll dominate the NL, and I think they're going to finish with the best record. The only problem I have with them is last year they were a sleeper team. This year they're going in as the favorites, and that comes with a lot of pressure, but I think they're going to handle it pretty well.
All right. Obviously, all three great teams. The thing you got to look at in the big picture here is that this is maybe one of the first times in recent memory that this baseball season is going in without one or two favorites. There's literally 8 to 10 powerhouse teams that could absolutely, like no questions, win the championship next year. And the thing for New Yorkers, which is terrifying, the Mets obviously in a rebuilding year for the last 5 years. And the Yankees, though, big problem for us. This is the first time that the AL East, the Yankees are not going in as either the first, like the top favorite, or at least a favorite to win. Right now, we might be the 4th best team. With the Red Sox in a kind of a rebuilding year, the fact that the Orioles and Rays are both great teams, they're both real young, coming off a couple seasons now with good talent on their team that no one's talking about right now, and obviously all the signings that you mentioned for Toronto. Toronto makes me so nervous. They have all these players. Obviously, there's more to go to it than just adding players. They have to play well together, and the chemistry definitely matters. But if Toronto puts it together, they're going to smack us. Absolutely, we're not even going to finish 10 games close to them for the first place, and that makes me really nervous. Like you said, they did not get any better. There's nothing that we have to hang our hats on that we could say we are better than Toronto in, and that makes me extremely nervous. Melky Cabrera is going to be my X factor. Everyone talks about Reyes and the pitching that they got. Melky Cabrera, before the PED last year, getting suspended, was going to be an all-star for sure, and maybe an MVP candidate. So that makes me, if he comes back and plays like he did, there's going to be a big problem for the AL East.
It's great right now to be an LA baseball fan. The Dodgers and Angels both have video game rosters. You talked about the Angels lineup, and the Dodgers, they have Greinke and Kershaw 1 and 2, Adrian Gonzalez, Hanley Ramirez. Their teams, Matt Kemp. Everyone makes fun of the Yankees for all-star lineups. That's what the Angels and the Dodgers have right now as a team. Both of those teams look insane, as well as the champion Giants.
And you can't forget about Melky's former team, the defending champs. They're also going to be one of the favorites. Their pitching is amazing, and their hitting is just as good. So.
And Tim Lincecum got a haircut.
He did.
Very true.
Change his ways.
Very true. This is definitely, no matter what team you're picking, this is definitely going to be a very exciting upcoming baseball season. Probably one of the best that we can think of in the last couple of years. So we'll see what happens with that. Come back for the fourth quarter debate. We're going to talk about NCAA basketball.
Lights, Camera, Action presents a great moment in cinema history.
Garbage Day! Huh? No!
Welcome back. Our fourth quarter debate is going to be on some college basketball. March is coming up very quickly. Before you know it, we'll be printing our brackets out and picking our teams. So right now we're going to pick what teams we like as our favorite. Even though we don't have the seeds yet, we're just going to see what we see happening in March. So first we're going to go to Dylan.
I'm going to be that guy, take the easy pick, go chalk, go #1 Indiana. They're coming off that huge win at Michigan State for the first time since 1991. They beat Tom Izzo, which is hard to do at Michigan State. He's a great coach. And everyone's comparing Victor Oladipo, their best player, to a young Michael Jordan in college. I don't know about all that, but he's having a phenomenal year. He's leading the team. He's the best player on the team. And they have Cody Zeller, who's averaging 16 and 8. They already have huge wins over teams like Michigan State twice, Michigan when Michigan was #1 in the country, Ohio State, UNC, Georgetown, Minnesota. They're dominating college basketball. I think they're going to go into the tournament as the #1 overall team. But if you're having me pick a team for March Madness, I'm taking Tom Izzo and Michigan State every time. they know how. Tom Izzo knows how to win in March, and that's who I'd pick if we're talking about the tournament.
All right.
All right. I agree. Indiana is going to be a great team going into the tournament, but I'm going to go with Miami. They're ranked second right now. Also, they have they're 22-3, and they have a very balanced team. They have not someone that's like shooting out the gym or grabbing rebounds every second, but they have a balanced team, and I think when you have such a great base around you that you're going to move forward either way. Right now they have a 14-game winning streak, and they already faced Duke earlier in their season. They beat Duke. They also played Duke, I think it's like March 2nd or 4th, so look out for that. If they can beat Duke twice in one season, they're going to be a top contender going into the March Madness.
All right, Carl.
I agree with you both. I'm going to go with a team that's usually looked at more as a Cinderella team. Gonzaga, they're third in the nation right now. They're third in points in field goal percentage, and they're ninth in points per game. I think that they're playing very high right now. They won 17 of their last 18, and I think that people can criticize their schedule on how easy it is. But if you look at in the past 10 years, 3 of the teams that's won it all in March have had some of the easiest schedules. Talk about Syracuse in 03 and Kansas in 08. I think that they have a good shot, and they could be a number 1 seed going into the brackets. So I'd say watch out for Gonzaga.
All right. You guys all bring up great points. The thing to think about with each of you, what Dylan said, I obviously agree with you 100%. Tom Izzo is by far, in my opinion, the best tournament coach in basketball right now. Unlike the NBA, where coaching is, almost kind of considered like babysitting, just trying to get your superstars to get along with each other. College basketball, when you get to the tournament, you need a good coach. If you look back at the last, 5, 10 winners, 90% of the time, you have a top-tier head coach as your basketball coach to lead you in there. It always breaks down to coaching. I love what Megan said about Miami. Not having a superstar a lot of times can help you in college basketball, because if you have someone go out there that's scoring 25 points a game and they have an off game, then you're done. But Miami has a bunch of different players that can do it. They're deep, so I definitely like that. And the only thing with Gonzaga is they're usually coming in as a 7 or a 10 seed, and they come and make noise that no one really thinks about. I wonder if a small school like that can handle the pressure of a number 1 seed and how they would perform in the tournament.
A good example is VCU. A couple years ago, last year and the year before that with Shaka Smart, they were complete underdogs, and they swam through all the big schools, all the big teams. So I think you could relate VCU's success to Gonzaga's success this year and prior to that. So
if you see them going in as a 10th seed, they're going to face harder teams like going down the stretch, because they're going to play 20-level teams or whatnot, but it could be a hard road there for them.
Yeah, but I think their coach has experience, and I think that school is recognized as having success in March. So I'm not worried about that. I just think they have to deal with the pressure of being one of the better teams going into the tournament rather than being one of the...
If I'm filling out a bracket, they're my number 1 seed if they're going to be a number 1 seed, they're the team I predict to get upset first. That's what I would do.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens. Obviously, we're not going to know anything until March, but you never know. Come back. Our overtime topic is going to be the NFL Combine. Stay with us.
12 seconds later.
Welcome back. Our overtime topic is going to be the NFL Combine. We're going to do a little segment called Buy or Sell. Our question for Buy or Sell is, does the Combine really matter? So first, we're going to go to Carl. Buy or sell?
I'm going to sell it. You know, it's great entertainment for fans to watch, you know, athletes performing all these things and getting tested. I love watching it as a fan, but at the end of the day, they already have these tests. They don't need to just be tested by NFL scouts to like ensure that they're actually fast as people say they are. I think it's just good entertainment, but I don't think it really matters.
All right, Megan?
I'm also going to sell it. You guys can have it, but I think that the teams already know like what outlook they're looking for, what position they're looking for. If they already know like what they've done on the field in their college teams, or you know, better yet, if they're just like walking onto it. But I don't think that's really going to make or break any player.
All right, Phil?
I'm also going to sell it. Keep it going. Teams fall in love with combine results. Everyone likes to watch who's the fastest player in the 40-yard dash, who bench presses the most. But that's the only issue. They fall in love with these players like Jamarcus Russell. He was a physical freak in workouts, but he wasn't a great NFL player. Teams fall in love. A great combine story of a guy that got hurt by the combine was Tom Brady. He ran a terrible 40 time, ran like a 4.52, and that's
Worst
terrible.
ever.
Yeah,
Worst ever.
terrible for quarterbacks. And the picture of him, he didn't even look like a football player. But he's arguably one of the greatest NFL quarterbacks ever. Combine doesn't measure the intangibles, the heart, the leadership, and what they really do with pads on. And I sell that combine. I don't like it. And Jerry Rice ran a 4.74 40. That's all you really need to know about how much 40 times matter. The greatest wide receiver of all time.
Agreed. I'm going to buy the combine in the sense for fans that it's awesome to watch and it gets people hyped up for the draft, which is something 20 years ago nobody cared about. Now the draft is a spectacle. It's something actually people go to and care about, which is awesome. I sell it in terms of what it means for a lot of these players. There's players that are going to get so hurt by their 40 time or how many times they bench press 225. And it really boils down to, it doesn't matter. It's overrated completely. Another story you guys are talking about for the workout warriors is Vernon Golston. So I go on NFL.com this morning and you type in Vernon Golston. For his draft results, you would think that the first thing would come up would be his stats from Ohio State or, you know, how many tackles he had for loss or whatever. What it says here, I wrote this down. It says NFL.com's positives for Vernon Golston. Has well-built frame with wide back, broad shoulders, V-shaped torso, large hands, long limbs, defined muscles throughout, and thick thighs and calves. Has absolutely nothing to do with him as a football player, and it shows because the Jets select him 6 overall, and he is a terrible bust for them, and you know, ruin that franchise for a couple years. If you miss on your #1 pick, that's a huge problem. And that's what they're going to report on.
Look at the Raiders. They took Russell #1, Calvin Johnson went 2, and Adrian Peterson went in that draft. The Raiders had a chance to have franchise players, and they went with Jamarcus Russell because of his workouts.
The only thing that I think that the Combine can be positive for is if an owner has questions about someone's character. If they want to bring in a player like this year, Tyrann Mathieu, would be a first-round talent, but with his off-field problems, you want to sit there as a general manager and you want to look him in the eyes and ask him, what are you going to do for me when you get to the NFL? I need to know where your head's at. And that's something that they could sit down and get to know these kids better on a personal level. But everything you need to know, you just watch in 3 or 4 years of college football. So I agree with you guys in that sense. We're going to go right into our final thoughts. First, we're going to go to Carl.
The Jets have been talking about trading Revis to the Niners for a first-round pick or second-round pick because the Niners are stacked in draft selections. I would never do that because the Niners don't need any help on defense, and that would just make them more of a threat. I think the Jets should stick to Revis,
That's
but
not fair.
They're trying to rebuild, so yeah, it's not fair at all.
All right, Megan?
My final thought is on Danica Patrick. Congrats to her being the first woman to win a poll. So the #1 poll is going to be like kind of hard for her. I know a lot of the past cars have not finished in the top 20s or 10s, so you know, good luck to her.
All right, Don?
Final thoughts on Kobe guaranteeing the Lakers make the playoffs. I don't agree with him, but I love the intensity Kobe approaches everything in life with. You saw in the All-Star game, he blocks LeBron, he takes it serious. He's guaranteeing, he's saying he's not scared of anyone. I love it. In the NBA nowadays, everyone's too buddy-buddy. Kobe wants to win. He wants to get another ring. He's not playing any games, and the Mamba's going for your throat. He wants to win, and I love it. I love it.
All right, just what Dylan said, first of all, that is absolutely terrifying that I heard them talking on ESPN yesterday that the 49ers are set up like the Patriots were 2-3 years ago with double the amount of draft picks that the average team has, and they are by far on paper the most talented team in the NFL, hands down, and now you're going to tell me that they have 14 draft picks instead of 7? That's terrifying. But yeah, my final thought is going to be on Derrick Rose. Derrick Rose is still rehabbing his ACL injury to come back. His brother, who's also his manager, Reggie Rose, came out and said that he's not going to rush his brother back to a team that isn't poised to contend for a championship, which if I'm a Chicago Bulls fan, I'm going to be very nervous about this. You do not want a LeBron situation with Cleveland with Derrick Rose leaving to go to a contender because management did not put the pieces around him to win a championship. If I'm a Chicago Bulls fan, very nervous about what his brother said. But thank you guys for tuning in. That's the end of our episode. Follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, and come with us next week. Thank you.
He rolls on the Knicks.
Yep.